Assalamu alaikum everyone and welcome to JAH Talk Show. I'm Amir Yusufi and Sprit and you can see the heart of the show is Jawad Shah with us also in the studio. You can watch us our live show on Facebook page SOT.JAH SOT and YouTube channel SOT TV. We always appreciate your feedback and questions. Please keep continue and this is one of our source of motivations. Hi Jawad, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam, Amir. How are you?
I'm
Assalamu
good.
alaikum to the viewers and everybody watching us. I hope you are good. You're enjoying your the weather. It was nice weather in Lahore. I don't know about the Malaysia. Amir, COVID. So again, the numbers are soaring. 66,896 is the number, Amir. And in last 24 hours, it has been 3,039. Every day the number is rising. Every 24 hours and the number is above the last time. And the deaths same. 88 deaths. It is the highest in 24 hours so far. Last peak we saw was 60 something and it is 88 now. I don't know, man. Every city, every province is soaring. We got to do something, and yet people are not sure if it is a peak or it is climbing up.
It's too
People
bad.
are not sure. Let's hope that we get to the declining phase soon.
Okay. Yeah.
Amir.
Good position. Okay. Let's talk with our guest. And the topic is very important. A very good topic, Jawad, what we have selected today. And we have requested our guest to talk on it. Who am I? Actually, this question is also stuck in my mind from few days. I was thinking about if someone will ask me, who are you? How we will answer? Definitely, this will be different at every reference. We understand, like at job, you will have a different answer in the social life and in the home, or your friends, with the relatives. It will be a different answer. But if you will talk from yourself, who am I? Then it's difficult how to get this answer. So it's a great honor for us to host Dennis Tyrrell again in our show. He's executive of business and life coach at Dennis Tyrrell. And this question is stuck in mind. Let's answer from him. So welcome him in the studio. Welcome back.
Gentlemen, thank you. It's so nice to be back with you. For me, it's a Sunday morning, and I know it's Sunday evening for you guys. So thank you. I'm drinking my coffee this morning, so it's great to be with you. And I just want to say, Javed, those numbers. I heard you talking about those numbers. Those are very sobering. That's a lot of suffering in the world right now. So I appreciate you guys keeping that stuff, bringing it to light and that sort of thing. It's terrible what the world is experiencing right now. So what I think is really cool is that there's shows like your guys's, and then that we can all kind of come together and talk about some of these things, without finger pointing and blame and that sort of thing. So I appreciate what you guys are doing. And the question, Amir, is, who am I? Man, that's really that's interesting that you've been thinking about that, because I think it's with COVID, I mean, man, what a time to kind of sit and reflect and do some introspection. So I appreciate the question.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you very much, Dennis. We believe that in the Corona days, people had a little bit of chance for self-assessment and self-analysis.
Absolutely.
But when you dig down to the point where you start thinking who actually I am, and not the Jackie Chan's movie, but the real who am I?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you suddenly get confused, you get lost, and you have goosebumps. So we somebody who has knowledge.
I completely agree, and I think, Willie, one of the things that makes this a little bit of a challenging topic is just simply that when we're questioning who am I, really what we're doing is we're also taking and we're questioning we're questioning how we fit in with our creator, right? I mean, these can go very, very deep, to deep levels. And so what I want to say is, you guys know my platform is, I love to have intellectual conversations, but my platform is taking it and bringing it back to the basics. So, for me, here's an interesting, I think the way to kind of start this off is, so you guys are business guys, and I'm sure it's very similar where you're at, the same as me, which is that every time I go to, and I am, because I'm a psychologist, I'm an amateur linguist, so these things really interest me, but it's interesting to me every time I've gone to a function. It can be a wedding, it can be a birthday party, it can be a professional networking event. Many people, their very first question when they introduce you, and I'm going to put my hand forward because like that was what we did just a few months ago, right? So you stick your hand out and you go to shake someone's hand, and the very first question is, "Oh, what do you do?" Right? So what do you do? Meaning, what do you do professionally? So for myself, thinking, hey, I don't want to just know about people, but their job is. I started asking them. I just started saying, "Hey, I'm Dennis. Tell me about yourself." Inevitably, what do you think they told me?
I am Jawad. I work so and so. That's it.
Right. And so, and coming from the profession I did, which was, in the public safety, I was a firefighter. We'd all have our uniforms on, and so I'd go to somebody and say, "Hey, tell me about yourself," and they'd go, "This is it. This is what I do." Most people, somehow we've gotten programmed to talk about what it is that we do for a living. And I will just say, as somebody that I was in a profession where my identity of who I was very wrapped up in what I did for a living. So I mean, it was all encompassing. Our families got together. Our wives would come up to the fire stations and hang out, and so there was a sense of community. But once that ends, now we're faced into these positions. Many people right now, at least in the United States, are out of work right now. So they're having a lot of time on their hands, and they seem to kind of ask these more existential and type of questions. So what I like to say is, and for a long time, you would have asked me, "Oh, hey, Dennis, nice to meet you. What do you do?" "Oh, I'm a fire chief." Even, and the interesting thing is, you think about how we attach ourselves to what we do. It was probably, I've been retired from that profession for 5 years. I just hit the 5-year mark. And it was probably up until 2 years ago, when people talk to me, I'm like, "Oh, I'm a retired fire chief." I couldn't even let it go then, right? So I think a lot of times what happens is I don't think many people necessarily spend time asking themselves this question. So I'm really glad that you brought it up. So what I would like to say to people is, one is you're so much more than what you do for a living, right? So for me, yes, I am a retired fire chief. That is true. I am a non-practicing psychologist. I don't do mental health. I am a psychologist that has nothing to do with the mental health field, right? So, but now I have gotten to where I don't put many of my qualifications, my degrees, that sort of thing. I don't even have that on my website. Because for me, I needed to take and focus on who I am, as opposed to what I do, and defining myself by all of these qualifications and degrees and criteria. And so for me, it really was, I started going through a process with myself. And so when you ask me this question, I went down and I made some notes on who I am. I'll see if my camera can pick that up. So yep. Terrible handwriting. So that's what I did, is I actually took it and wrote it down. And so who am I?
Again, Dennis.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it can.
Yeah.
Father, husband. Yeah.
Okay. I am what I do. I'm a father, husband, genuine leader.
A community leader. I'm a professional, and I'm a friend.
Leader. Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so that's, and I'm going to encourage everybody I'm going to encourage everybody to just take, I just used a small little Post-it paper. But I'm going to encourage everybody that's watching to take and actually write that down. Come up with at least 5. If you can't come up with at least 5 things of who you are, we might want to have a different conversation, because you might just be kind of a boring person, right? So really give some thought. Give some thought to who you are. And for me, for me, the first one that always comes up when I think about who am I, very first thing that comes to my mind is I'm a father. That's the first one to me. Second, I'm a husband, because those are really the most important aspects of my life. I love going to work. I love broadcasting. I love what I do for a living. It's just so much fun. But who am I? Because broadcasting will change. My 25-year career came to an end. That was what my whole identity was based on. And so really I became what I did. Instead of taking and really focusing on who I am as a person. So, and I just want to say, I think in many cases, and I can't speak to any other country, here in the United States, the thing that we ask children is, what do you want to be when you grow up? So we start this programming very early. So what do you want to do? What do you want to be when you grow up? And I suggest to parents, ask a different question. Who do you want to be? Who do you want to be? See, because now what you can go is, you know what, I want to be like, this cleric. I want to be like this minister. I want to be like this politician. So now they get somebody that they can actually model themselves after, instead of just taking and going, well, I've got to complete my studies. I have to go to university. I have to go to graduate school. And I have to be a doctor of some sort. Right? You look at it over here in the U.S. and even in my travels in the Middle East, like there's a lot of people with doctor in front of their name that have nothing to do with medicine. So,
Dennis.
Yeah.
So Dennis, I'm a little naive, so I'll break down the concept for myself, and you acknowledge if I have understood it correctly or not. So far we have seen that. Till now, our concept was whatever we do, that is what we are. Whatever we do for our living, that is what we are.
Mm-hmm.
And the actual point is, that is one part of the whole who I am equation.
Right.
What I do is one small little part of my completeness.
Yes.
It is not the complete me.
That is correct.
The other options. It has the other small little parts. And
Yes.
that are, what role do I play as an individual in the community?
Mm-hmm.
What do I do as a family member? Be it son, be it husband, be it father, be it brother, be it sister. And
Right.
then what role do I play as other stuff comes into my life? For example, am I a good neighbor? Do I do good to the animals? Do I follow the law? Am I a criminal or I'm not a criminal? Do I abhor the humanity or I don't? All these sort of questions would answer that who am I? So
Absolutely.
it was completely characters that would define me.
Yes, absolutely. And because what you're talking about, and so what I think we should really focus on, instead of things that we do and certain roles that we play, because one of the things I say to I say this quite often is, we all wear different masks, right? So when I'm on another broadcast, I wear a different shirt. So we all put different masks or uniforms on depending upon what we're doing. The way that I would dress for a funeral is very different than the way I would go to my gym and work out. So we all do this, and I think we just get so caught up in the day-to-day that we don't always give this a thought. So I'm just going to come out and say I'm grateful for COVID. Bless those that are suffering, but I'm grateful because for the majority of us, it really gave us an opportunity, if we decided to take it, to kind of explore some of these things. And so, things like for me, so we change. So when we take and box ourselves in, now what we've done, so I'll just kind of give a personal example for myself. 5 years before my retirement from the fire department, here's the truth. I had quit and stayed. So truly, I had checked out. I was collecting a paycheck. I was waiting for my pension to kick in, that sort of thing. But I had changed internally. So I didn't have a problem, or what was challenging for me was I was ready to move on. And a lot of times when we box ourselves in, now we create a stuck state. And that's really where these existential crises come in. It's because now I'm obligated to something versus what it is I want to go and pursue. Plus, we have to keep in mind, the family obligations, the societal obligations, and I'll tell you, going from a position of being a fire chief, I was important in the community. People, like, my phone rang all the time. I mean, it stroked my ego in a way that felt good. But the very day after I left, within 2 days after I had left, my phone didn't ring at all. So now you're stuck with, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? So I'm going to just suggest is that, the things that we do, those are part of our life. I think really who we are can be summed up with our core values and our belief systems. And when I'm talking, go ahead.
Because I noted down the one good point which you are talk about for the children. What question we need to ask? Who do you want to be? So it just come in my mind. It means we must have some benchmark as well. For example, I'm a father. I understand point. It's very easy to understand from ourselves because I am a father. I have children.
Yeah.
But how I'm a good father or not? So is there any benchmarking which we need to be a reference point so I can observe myself? Who am I? I'm father, but how is a father look like?
I think that the benchmark changes, especially in parenting. See, because now what you're doing is you're talking about, and for myself, I had 2 sons that when they lived, I still do, but when they lived here at home, each day was a different benchmark. And truthfully, Amir, what I say is, I don't think as far as being a good father, I don't think I get to set that benchmark. My children do. My wife did. So I think that there are some things that I don't know that there's always a benchmark for that. I think, but yes, I do think it's more about saying, who do you want to be? And the other thing is instead of starting with what do you want to do, who do you want to be, and what type of lifestyle do you want to live? So that's really where it comes down to. I mean, my oldest son, He's like, he wants to save up and go on a trip. I mean, he's 25 years old. He wants to travel. My youngest son, he is dove head into his career. So, it just really depends. So it really depends on the type of life and lifestyle that you want to have. I was, from a religious perspective, and I think we have to take and look at our religion. Who are we within that context? For me, I was taught that religion is the entire life, not just a piece of your life. So for me, that became very challenging, and it caused me to question, because I was being pulled by the world. Now, I came from a unique situation that wasn't very common. It's not even really common here in the U.S. So it's it causes us to think about these. And when I talk about core values and belief systems, what I'm simply saying is that like we have our values, those are instilled in us, right? So our parents, they taught us, our church community, our neighbors, the community as a whole, they instilled values in us. But are those values, Amir? I guess the question, because you grew up in Pakistan, yes?
Yes.
Okay,
right.
And so the values, now that you're living in Malaysia, has there been any change? And and please understand, I'm not talking core values that define us as far as like integrity. I'm a person of faith. I'm a person of integrity. I'm honest. In fact, for me, I'm honest to a fault. Yeah. I'll tell on myself. I'll tell on myself before I ever get caught, right? Yeah. So if I do something or whatever, I've never gotten out of a traffic ticket because when the officer comes to my door, when I'm, he's like, do you know why I pulled you? Yes, I was speeding. I mean, so I've been told I'm honest to a fault. So my integrity is extremely important to me. Loyalty is extremely important to me. But now what we have to do is we have to take and figure out how these still fall into our lives. Hey, Amber, nice to see you, friend. So yes, then of course our values tie into our belief systems. Our values most of those stay the same, but we have to take and reevaluate our belief systems on a very regular basis. Right. So, and what I'm talking about with belief systems is, while I was a fire chief, man, I was a really good fire chief and I believed in it. And, I believed in everything that I was doing, but now I'm not a fire chief anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So my belief systems have to change to accommodate the lifestyle I have now. So who we are, the thing that keeps us I look at it like this. I look at it like this. What do you want people to say at your funeral? So when you pass away, what do you want people to say? How do you want to be remembered? Because that's truly who you are. Thoughts?
Yeah.
Dennis, why don't we add our objectives in our "Who am I" answer? And why don't we add, just a random question, why don't we add what we are made of? For example, clay, water, flash, all that stuff. Why don't we add that things into it? And why don't we add what are objectives of the life to who am I?
Well, I think to your question, Javed, is with objectives to life is they change, right? I'll just speak for myself. 3 months ago, I had very different objectives and benchmarks. Guess what? We all went into quarantine and locked down, right? And instead of coming to meetings and stuff, we're like, well, I guess I better get a Zoom account, right? Or I guess I better get on StreamYard. So those benchmarks, they change depending upon our ecosystem, like we talked about last week. They depend on world events and so forth. And so I can tell you, when I was in the military, the United States Army, when I was in there, I mean, I'm not that person anymore. I am not that person anymore. I was 17 to 24 years old. Why do I want to still be that person? It's kind of when I just had this conversation with a couple and they said, oh, I don't, the gentleman said, no, I don't want her to change. And I'm like, she's 35 years old. You still want to be married to a 20-year-old? That just doesn't make a lot of sense when you take and really break it down. So we change as people. I think that you can have benchmarks and objectives, Javed. I'm just simply saying when we attach ourselves to those and then they don't happen. I mean, listen, if I were to take and beat myself up over losing business this year, I didn't lose business. COVID took it away.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? So it kind of sets us up to fail emotionally and create a stuck state for ourselves. So it really comes down to why, as far as the clay and the water and stuff, I don't think I personally look at that too much, because even that can change. So 10 years ago, I was a full human being with all the parts I was born with. I'm not. I don't have that anymore. I've got metal in different places. My hip has been taken out and replaced with metal. I have metal rods in my back that are supporting it now. So I think it's just allowing that those types of changes happen. It's not to say that things don't stay the same, but I think we're much better off mentally, psychologically, and even overall wellness when we understand and we really attach our emotions to change, that it will change and that nothing is permanent. I mean, so I just want to say one of the, yeah.
Dennis, let me bring back you on your question where you have ended. When you will die, someone will die. So other people will say to about him. I think it's a very good point to describe. But if after the death, for example, he's very kind person, he's very good person, He's a good father. No one will
Mhm.
talk about his responsibility of what he is doing. For example, he's a chief engineer or he's an engineer,
Right.
whatever he has done. So it's a good point to understand. This is a really we need to think about when we will die. Who will cry? Who will cry when you will die? So it's a very famous
Yes.
word. Yeah.
How do you want to be remembered? I mean, I started, the older I get, the more I end up thinking about that question as well. And for me, now what we're having to say is, well, so I left the fire department. I left that whole organization and lifestyle 5 years ago. So now, do I really care what they think when I die? In 25, 30 years, Lord willing that I get that much life left in me. So it's, I think that we just have to understand that what I mean by that comment is simply that what do we want the people in our lives that are important to us? So you talked about your kids. Are you a good father? I don't know that that's anything. I just don't. I don't know that that's anything that we will necessarily know on earth. I think that's what our kids, that's our legacy that we leave behind. So in my life, I am most concerned about, if I were to take and die today, what I would like to be known like my wife. Hey, I treated her well. I was a good husband. I was a good provider. See, again, who am I? I'm a provider. I'm a good husband. I'm a good partner. I was a good friend. Not perfect. My children, that, oh my gosh, my dad taught me this. My dad taught me that. I learned this from my dad. I am this way because of my dad's influence. And I think we get that positive and negative. I mean, we can always see the best reflection of who we are. Look at your children.
Mhm.
Look at your children. I can tell you, my son, my youngest son, he is prone to anger and he is prone to like punching the wall and putting a hole in the drywall. I know right where he learned that.
Mhm.
Right? I mean, these are the things that we faced with. My son, I don't know if this is very common in your part of the world. In America, chewing tobacco, very, very, like it's pretty popular, especially in certain professions. So my son, he chews tobacco.
Mhm.
I don't want my son chewing tobacco. I don't want my son smoking cigarettes.
Mhm.
That's me. I brought that in. So I think when we look at who we are, we have to take and be honest about it and be transparent with ourselves. I mean, I would like to say, oh, the advertising, the tobacco companies advertising, peer pressure, that's what drove my son to do that. No, it's not. He saw me sit there and put a chew in, it put a dip in after a meal, like he saw me do it working out. Like I brought that in. So to know who we are, it takes a level of honesty with ourselves that I'm just going to come out and say it. A lot of people aren't willing to do. A lot of people just simply aren't willing to sit with themselves and explore these thoughts because they can be painful. I don't like knowing that. In fact, I just FaceTimed with my son yesterday, and what did he do? He put tobacco in his mouth, and I'm just like, because I know that was me, right? So who we are. Think about, again, the easiest way I can explain this is to really think about what do you want the people that are closest to you, that handful of people that are truly influential in our lives. How do we want them to remember us? Because when I was at work, I showed a certain side of me. Here in my home, here in my personal close relationships, those people know me very different. So professionally, I'm kind of, I'm like a point fingers and in your face kind of a leader person. In my private life, I cry often. I show emotion. I give a lot of hugs. I'm willing to go without so others can have stuff. Not in my professional life. You want something from me professionally, you're going to pay me. Right? Because that's that side of me. So I think what we're really talking about is kind of, it's not even the duality of man. It's the multiple faces of man that we wear. So I wanted to make sure that I got this point across is that, one is who I am it changes other than our core values. So like for me, a core value is honesty and trustworthiness, meaning that I don't steal. I don't steal. I that's not a part of my life. I can't see that in 20 years I'm going to be stealing. Right? I mean, because that's a core value. As far as loyalty, I'm very loyal to people. For me though, that loyalty can change though. So I think in too many ways we attach emotions, and we make them permanent on us. The question I have is, because now I think we should really look at, because I hear this a lot, especially in the younger generation, is, oh, Dennis, I want to live my passion and my purpose. Okay, I'm just going to come out and say it. Passion and purpose are great for your hobbies. Passion and purpose are great as far as like your religion, as far as your interaction with your family. In your professional life, passion and purpose are the quickest way to the poorhouse. End of discussion. I mean, I can't say it any clearer than that. Because when all you're doing is focusing on your passion, I mean, that's easy to get lost. It's kind of like just a little side note. When I work with a business owner and they tell me, "Oh, you don't understand, Dennis, my business is my baby." No, it is not. It is not. And it cannot be. Simply because I did things for my kids. I made exceptions. I made accommodation. I didn't even make good decisions all the time where my kids are concerned. I can't do that in my business. So I think it's really important that we understand who we are in that context. As far as the big overwhelming question of who am I think really what we're talking about is understanding that who I am changes other than my core values. But my belief systems have changed. They're constantly changing. So passion and purpose, they're only going to get you so far. And here's the other thing with that. Why do you only get one? Why do you only get one passion? Why do you only get one purpose? I mean, I have multiple purposes. Why would I limit myself? Javed?
No, I was saying it is, we all have we have multi-passions. I want to be a very good father, husband, and at the same time, I want to passionately climb my corporate career ladder. I also want to be a very good broadcaster. So all these are my passions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great example, is that I'm passionate about each of the things I do. But in my business, I'm not passionate about everything. I do not like doing my book, and that's actually what I'm glad I'm meeting with you today, because I had to get dressed up to come to work, because otherwise I would have procrastinated another day on getting my bookkeeping done. So And the crazy part of that is doing my bookkeeping is what keeps me getting paid. That's the part of my job I hate the most. It's really interesting when we really do some introspection and self-reflection of like, man, I really just don't like that. I like to get paid. I just want I'm trying to get to a point in my business where I pay somebody else to just manage all of that. And the funny thing is, I manage other people's businesses. So when I manage other people's businesses, I'm right on. I can assure you their books are done. I can assure you their business plan is up to date. I can assure you their strategic plan is up to date. Their policies and their procedures are all in line with that. Mine, and I can always, because I'm not passionate about that part. I'm just going to come out and like say, I'm one of these ones that really pursued passion and purpose. That's how I ended up on the fire department. It gave me a sense of purpose. I was a part of the community, and I was passionate. But those passions changed. They had to, because when I was coming up through the ranks, I was a union leader. Well, so when I became a chief, I couldn't be a union. When I got into management, no more union. So I had to take and switch gears. And even though I still believed in what I was doing before, my role changed. My role changed. And so I had to take on new responsibilities. I had to adopt new belief systems. A value I have, though, is that employees They should all be treated well. We shouldn't need unions so that that way because everybody is being treated well. They're being treated fairly. They have some say in their workplace and so forth. But when I got into the C-suite, I couldn't allow all of that. And what really changed it for me was seeing all of the, well,
Dennis,
seeing,
let me put some twist here.
yeah.
After all conversation, if I ask you why we need to ask this question, so for example, what is the importance? For example, if someone is asking this question and
Mhm.
someone is not asking this question and realizing what is the difference and what is the importance of that?
Well, I think everybody needs to ask themselves this question. But somebody was going to say is, you know, I really think no, you don't have to ask the question to a general like somebody like maybe you know I make good money, you know I have a good house, I have a good family, you know all of that's good. I don't need to ask those questions, and I know several people like that. For me, and I'm gonna come out and say is one of the reasons I had to do this. One of the reasons I asked myself of who I am was because I felt very disconnected from the Creator. That's true, and so I felt very disconnected from God, and I did like that relationship was strained, and it's not God. I didn't change. I changed. So it was in order for me to kind of I felt like there was something missing. So I'm going to just suggest that if you feel like something's missing from your life, if you feel like especially because again we're talking a really deep topic.
Yeah.
It's very deep. So for me, a lot of this comes down to my relationship with God. And for me, I'm just going to come out and say it. I felt very disconnected. And in order for me to reconnect and establish that communication with God again, I had to understand and ask that question. I had to say, who am I? So it goes to a bigger. It's so much bigger than what we get up and put a uniform on and go to work and do every day. This to me. These are the questions that if your soul is tortured, if your soul is tortured, if you're kept up at night, you have to ask this question. You have to take and reconcile, and a lot of times we have to reconcile who we were versus who we want to become. So you can't know where you've been. You can't go forward until you know who you are. The easiest way to ask these questions, what kind of person do I want to be? Who do I want to be? That's the easiest one. Who do I want to be and what kind of lifestyle do I want to live?
That's great.
So, Dennis, the question, who am I, actually gives me the reality check, and it will be used in our goal setting, in our objective setting again, where we want to be, where we are headed, what way we will take. All these questions, all these plannings will be answered once we know who we are. As you said,
Yes.
that it is a deep question and it is required to understand the connection with the Creator, the Almighty, the
Yeah.
nature, or whatever you call it, the one soul power authority. Right? Because that's how it will determine that whether I'm gonna get the direction of the Creator or I'm not gonna get the Creator's direction. I
Absolutely.
guess
And
another dimension of this question is understanding whether even I am a creation or I am a creator.
yes.
Because who am I question would answer that. If I am a creator, then what is my creation? And if I'm a creation, then I need to dig down who is the creator.
Absolutely.
That will
Absolutely.
again put us into another theory to understand what philosophy of a life I have to accept.
Yes. Yes.
Either I am going to accept someone else's given philosophy or theory, or I'm going to go draw my own philosophy or a theory. You see, so that is Amir, I think, is the reason that we need to dig down who am I.
Good point.
I mean, we can deny this, we can deny that, we can deny everything, but then we have to come down and sit together and put together actually few answers for ourselves. And those answers would be, am I existing? Am I existence? Does my existence exist? Yes or no? Then all those characters, as Dennis very detailedly explained, that whether I have the values, whether I have the objectives, whether I have the needs, whether I have the demands, whether I have the things to do, that will answer all that. And in conclusion, we will be either connecting to someone or we won't be.
I really appreciate what you said, and that's a great sentiment. And what it says to me is, I think sometimes we need to ask ourselves, because you said it in a way. I mean, I'm going to paraphrase. In a way, it kind of makes you humble. It gives you that. It makes you stop and think. Right. So I think that by asking this question, it causes us some humility. And I'm just going to say, I think one of the biggest challenges when people are asking this question is we finally have to come out and admit. I mean, this is true. We have to end up coming out and admitting that we're not as important as we think we are. And that's, that gets very hard to swallow, is not important as we think we are. Listen, I mean, I'm important to those around me. But as far as like, am I a world leader? I mean, come on, let's even take a world leader right now. Yeah. I mean, in 10 years, in 20 years, I mean, come on. We don't still talk. I'll just speak to the United States because I don't know all the world leaders. But I mean, we still talking. We don't talk about Gerald Ford very often. And I think Gerald Ford, actually Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter. We don't talk about him very often anymore. And he did so much. He did so much for world peace. He did a lot of really good humanitarian work, and even in his 90s, he's still actively doing humanitarian work in his community. But we don't. But he's not put into the category of being an amazing president. In 20 years, even as much of a blowhard, and as much as Trump is like taking and beating that microphone all the time, in 20 years, it's going to be a blip on the map. And so what I suggest to really kind of answer this question is to truly understand. I'm very metaphors are very powerful for all of us. I try to look at metaphors all the time. What I like to do whenever I'm feeling too important, whenever I find myself going, yeah, I'm really doing well. I'm killing it over here. I got all these likes, and these people are connecting with me. And for me, what I end up doing, because I live in the desert, and there's places in the desert I really like to go. And I will go and I will climb to the top of a mountain in the middle of the heat. I just did it 2 weeks ago. It was extremely hot. I climbed to the top of this mountain, and it was because I was in my head. I was torturing myself in my own head about work and some relationships. And what I needed to do is, once I got up on the top of that mountain, and I could see a bigger part of the world, I felt very small. I felt very small. That here, I was out of breath. I was hot. I was tired. I really didn't even know how I was going to get down that mountain. That's how hot and tired I was. And again, I made myself feel small. So for me, that's important to me because again, know yourself. I am very, very prone to being really arrogant. Like, I have an arrogant streak in me. This is what I'm saying is, who am I? We have to take and acknowledge the negatives as well. I think all we want to do is focus on, I'm a really good father. I'm a good father. I'm a good husband. Yeah, but I'm also somebody whose breath really stinks, right? I mean, that's kind of a more funny example, but
the normal discussion, the friends or maybe in the office sometimes say, "Who are you?" When you're giving a topic and something.
I suggest that and try it as a test. Try it as a test. Hey, so tell me about yourself. And you'll get people, they'll tell you what they do for a living. Or they'll tell you, I just got a new car. They'll tell you some event or something like that. So ask somebody, who are you? What I do when I ask somebody, hey, tell me about yourself, and they start going off on their profession, I'm like, that's great. That's super cool. Tell me about you.
Yeah.
I redirect it again. No, hey, that's great, but tell me about you. And most people, in my experience, most people can't do it. Most people can't do it. It takes them so off guard because I think we get into these situations where all we're doing is we're listening to reply and solidify our own positions. Javed?
Then thinking about this question even makes one serious about one's life. It means that one is actually thinking about oneself. I would quote another good friend of ours, Jason, who once said that it is very important that you talk to yourself for a while. The self-talk, and you also referred the other day
Yes.
about the time for oneself. I actually, the details that you just took us through make me realize that this question, who am I, actually makes to think about the answer and to think about this question even makes one serious about one's life.
Yes.
That is the first fundamental thing, the
Yeah.
grounding step, I would say, to start thinking about your life and everything. That's the grounding step.
Yeah, I agree, and I think a question. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Amir.
So from my understanding, what I am listening from both of you, what I understand in my life, this is also giving some responsibility. Okay, so you are not here without any reason. For example,
Correct.
if I am a father, this is my responsibility, which I need to do it. Okay, if I am a husband, so as you mentioned, I'm a provider. This, of course, some force is there and he is doing, but I need to do some work. If I'm in the office, there is some responsibility and my existence is there. So this is also give us some responsibility when we are asking some questions. So we are
Yeah.
not useless, and some people are saying, oh, you are useless, you can't do anything. So at least we have the answer, who am I, why I'm here. So these all fundamentals from creator to responsibility to object, this need to be in the one liner to give you answer, who am I.
I completely agree, and if I could just kind of give a personal example here of where this really, how this really came into my life and starting to ask this question. So, those that have watched my broadcast and stuff, I'm pretty open about the fact that I had a serious addiction problem. I did. I had a serious addiction problem for many years, and it's the last time was in 2009. So it's been a while. And that sort of thing. What I had to ask myself though is literally as I was like, so I'm going to tell something, but people might not like this, but really what I was doing was I literally sat there and I was putting a needle in my arm, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And so there's been a few of those moments for me. So once I got cleaned up and everything else, I got my life back on track, is that, and I'm going to just say this, the reason, like a lot of the reason, I had to figure out, like, because I didn't want to go back to being that person. I just didn't. It was destroying my life. So I didn't want to go back to being that person. So I had to go, who am I? Now who do I want to be? Because I had to answer the question of who I was, and that was sobering. That was extremely sobering. And so let's just fast forward to about 5 years ago, right after I left the fire department. Again, same questions. This is why I'm saying our contexts change. So I was looked at 10 years, 15 years ago, I was looked at as this, this guy, he's a fire chief. He does this, he does that, these important things in the community. And what nobody knew, because I was a really good drug addict. I was able to hide it really well, like a lot of people. So, but that was my dirty secret. So people saw me one way. I had a whole nother persona in private. And that worked until it didn't. So a lot of times, if we don't ask ourselves these questions often along the way, we just put our head down and we go. And I'm not saying everybody gets into drugs or alcohol or anything else. I'm just simply saying whether it's working too much, whether it's a poor diet, lack of physical activity, any of those basic things that keep us really healthy. So what again, 5 years ago, I left the fire department. I found myself in this situation again. Great. Now who am I? Because now I really didn't know. I knew I wasn't a drug addict. So that was a little easier to go away once I reconciled those behaviors with who I am and what I wanted to be. But when I left the fire department, I had to ask myself, who am I and what am I doing? And what I found is I decided, I took a course, and I like this because you guys had this on, I think it was a couple days ago, about meditation.
Yeah.
And so where I really, really found the answers to this question is I tried to meditate. The very first time, I'm like, oh, you know what? No big deal. I'm going to do this. I'm going to sit motionless. I'm going to like clear all my thoughts. I'm just going to focus on my breathing. So I took my phone and I set the timer for 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
And you couldn't.
No, not even close. Not even close. Because I kept like peeking. I'm sitting there like, like, come on. And what I had to really wrestle with, I did it for a few more days. I still wasn't successful. And what I really had to wrestle with was that when I sat there by myself, the person I disliked the most was me. And I don't think I'm unique in that. So I think sometimes, when you look at what's going on, again, I can only speak to the United States, but when you look at what's going on here of like, I'm not talking about constitutional rights or anything, but look at the mentality behind. We were quarantined for 2 months. And so now you have people that they want to get out and about. And why did they push to open up everything so quickly? Open it up, open it up. You see all the stuff on the news, the same as that's happening in my country. So absolutely. And so what is it? It's our inability to sit with our own thoughts. That's really what it comes down to, is our inability to sit with our own thoughts. And the reason we can't sit with our own thoughts is because now we have to answer these existential questions of who am I? And that can get really scary.
So Dennis has brought us to a very interesting point. That is answers of existential questions, not spending time with our own thoughts. It is very difficult to spend a time on a serious thought. It is very easy to go and enjoy fun out there, but it is difficult to take the responsibility. As Amir mentioned, who am I means taking the responsibility. As Dennis has detailed in last 40-50 minutes, that what actually it means to ask a question, who am I, how you would answer it, and how you would go with it. Dennis, thank you very much for your today's
hey, thank you guys.
Actually, we tend to extend as much as possible, but somehow then we have a feedback of our guests to keep it within the time frames.
Yes, so I agree.
With hope that you will join us again.
Absolutely.
Another topic.
Yeah, it's a great way for me to start my week. So yes, gentlemen, thank you so much for having me. This was such a blessing to me, alhamdulillah. That it's such a blessing to be a part of this conversation, and I really hope that people watching will take this seriously. And look, if you're going to try to sit with yourself, do it in small doses. Get to know yourself. And when you get to know yourself, get to know yourself the same as you would another human being, and go, well, because think about it. You sit there with somebody else, you're like, I don't like that. Do it to yourself as well. That when you know who you are, you can become who you want to be.
So this is a good point. I think the topic is already come in my mind. We will talk about what you want to be. Okay.
Perfect.
So when you have the answer, who am I? So what are the shortcomings or anything? We will discuss in the next session. So it will become a series, Dennis. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I like it a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You guys have a really good evening.
Thank you very much. Have a good Sunday. Enjoy.
Thank you so much. All right. Many blessings to everybody. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
So this is all about it, Amir. The fundamental question, who am I, starts when one start thinking about oneself. A serious foundation to build on about the life planning and moving ahead, about the identity, about the responsibility associated with it, and the outward markway to have follow. As I said, it is as the Dennis explained to us, it
Very
is
well.
connection with the Creator, with the Almighty. We have a one ayah from Quran that I want to place here. O mankind, indeed we have created you from male and female and made you people and tribes that you may know one and another. So the point is understanding each other. Allah has made us from tribes and nations.
Yeah.
That tribes and nations further drill down to individuals, and each individual has to ask a question: who am I? Why I am here? What I have to do, and where we need to do. The answer that where we want to be or what I want to be would be answered by Dennis in another show. Inshallah, pretty much soon we will bring to you. Thank you very much. I hope you will follow SOPs. Time is little enough. We need to take care of ourselves and we need to follow SOP with the prayer that Allah will protect us, all of us. Allah will protect all of us. Take care. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.